sharing knowledge and experience between all educational actors and contexts. This involves fostering dialogue and research dissemination, undertaking capacity building activities and advocacy, developing networks and partnerships, and actively engaging in the creation and exchange of knowledge. Over the last 70 years, UIL has benefited greatly from cooperation with partners across the globe. Today, as we celebrate this anniversary, we wish to reflect together with all our partners on milestones, but also, and above all, to explore how we can continue to work collaboratively to further promote lifelong learning for all. I would like to share with you today, we are going to have 3 speakers for this panel. First, we will hear from Mr. Chakib Ben Musa, Minister of National Education, Preschool and Sports from the Kingdom of Morocco. He will share us some thoughts on the prospects of the African Institute for Lifelong Learning. Then we will reflect on UIL's ongoing cooperation with Shanghai Open University of the People's Republic of China. We will hear from Mr. Jia Wei, President of SOU, accompanied by the institution's Vice President, Ms. Zhang Jin. Following this, I'm delighted to announce that a signing ceremony that celebrates a new cooperation agreement between UIL and the Shanghai Open University for the next 3 years will take place. During the ceremony, we will also hear from our Director of UIL, Mr. David Achuarena. Finally, my colleague, Ms. Christina Drews, who is a program specialist here at UIL, will take the floor. Ms. Drews will introduce us to UNESCO's Global Network of Learning Cities project, through which UIL works with numerous partners in the globe. So I would like to first of all remind all our distinguished speakers today, you will have 8 minutes for your presentation. While our speakers are presenting, I would like to invite all participants to post any questions that you may have in the chat box. Your questions will be either put forward to speakers following their presentations or addressed in the Q&A box by UIL colleagues. So without any further delay, I would like first to welcome to the stage Mr. Ben Musa, Minister of National Education, Preschool and Sports from the Kingdom of Morocco. The 7th International Conference on Adult Education took place in June of this year in Marrakesh. At the conference, over 1,000 participants adopted a new framework for action on adult learning and education, the Marrakesh Framework for Action. The Kingdom of Morocco has also initiated the creation of an African Institute for Lifelong Learning to mobilize and promoting lifelong learning in the country and across the region. This was noted in the Marrakesh Framework for Action. Mr. Ben Musa, may I have the pleasure now to invite you to the stage to share with us some thoughts on this institute. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais tout d'abord...
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to excuse Chakib Ben Musa, the Minister and President of the National Commission. He cannot be here, unfortunately. There was an urgent matter that has kept him from being here, but I am going to read his speech for this session. Excellencies, Assistant Director of UNESCO, Vice President of UNESCO, members of the governing board of the UIL, director of UIL, Mr. Acharena, Madam Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, it's with great interest that I take the floor at the 70th anniversary of the UIL, and in particular during this séance, this session about partnerships. A partnership is a key element of sustainable development to promote efficient cooperation between governments and the private and civil society, so that we can build
le choix irréversible de l'ouverture du Maroc sur son environnement régional et international.
It marks the opening of Morocco on the world. So it is dedicated to defend common and multilateral cause, and hoping that it will have an international and global impact. In the frame of the fifth conference dedicated to the education held in Marrakesh in 2022, the partners and the actors took the commitment to support the initiatives in terms of cooperation on the international level. They took also the commitment to enhance and to optimize the long life learning. In this frame, initiatives were taken on the international level, on the level of the international countries too. So it is very important to involve all the actors operating in this area. So it is very important to have common clues to act in this area. I would quote another example of partnership. It is a recherche action, the research terms or in the area of literacy in Rabat. It is led by 12 African countries, among them Morocco, and those countries release standard or reference reports to work. The most important thing is to harmonize all the competences, and we elaborate a frame of assessment. It was in 2018 in this context, and to go in the direction of a more ambitious partnership on level of African countries, we opened in 2022 the Confin 2 in Marrakesh in the realm of Morocco. And the message was to express the will of the realm of Morocco to establish an African center of education dedicated for enhancing and optimizing the cooperation in the countries of the global south, and to enhance the lifelong learning. In June, a conference precised the details of this initiative, and it established the 4 main missions of this institute. The institute is dedicated to enhance the capacity of all the actors involved in this approach, especially in the African countries. Furthermore, these institutes will enhance the optimized exchange of technologies and knowledge between different actors dedicated to the education, especially between the learning African cities. Furthermore, this institute will enhance and create links between the different actors involved in the lifelong learning. And finally, this institute will address directly to the local policymakers and the practitioners and the chairmen of the NGOs and the researchers, in order to have an assessment, a global assessment and a continental assessment of what we are doing in the area or in the field of lifelong learning. And the first priority are the learners and the educators. I'd like to remember, if you allow me to remember, sorry, is that framework for action in Marrakesh reconfirmed this initiative to create an African Institute for Lifelong Learning. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that institute is embedded in the lifelong learning, which were confirmed by the UNESCO, and is a continuum of the following of the initiative which were taken in the past. And this institute takes into account all the conditions, situations in which people are learning. It's linked, to vocational training. This lifelong learning is embedded in the American legislation, American law, which stipulates that lifelong learning corresponds to every activity to develop the knowledges, the skills, and the competences of everybody. So, for instance, in a social project or an economical project. This African Institute takes into account the continuum of what was done hitherto, and it takes into account all the vocational and social knowledges. And we will take into account all the learning situations and conditions which prevail in the African continent. It's an African Institute is dedicated to the three focus in numeric literacy, the basic knowledge, and the continuing training. The training of everybody in the country. And finally, this African Institute will make launch some stages to reactivate or revitalize the lifelong learning. And he will propose deliver some possibilities to get into the market labor. Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, a prefiguration of this institute was already launched by the realm of Morocco and by the European Union. It is a prefiguration study. It has three axes. The first axis, you have to precise the offer in Africa for the learning activities and for exchange experience, cooperation and assessment. The second component of this institute. This consists in assessment in the legal, organizational, technical, and financial aspects of this institute. And the third element of this institute consists into delivering solutions for the challenge we are facing. This prefiguration or this pre-study will precise the mandate and the mission of this institute, which is confirmed by the UNESCO, and it is preview to recognize and to validate the efforts and endeavors made by Morocco in terms of numeracy, and it's reconfirming the validity of the program of the UNESCO. These are pertaining to documents studies having the category 2. This institute belongs to the category 2, which is confirmed by the UNESCO. The most important thing is to have an institute which is able, first of all, to promote and to deliver the learning of people. And secondly, it is very important to create new learning cities. It is an African network, a very big network, which is dedicated to make sure that this approach will be consistent or continuing. It is a network with African dimensions, which is implement on the African level to realize, to concretize the commitment, to make real, the commitments taken by the different countries. And fourth point is consisting in enhancing and optimizing the work of the actors and the players to have a global approach of these goals. This African network will be able to implement hybrid events, for instance, exchange between different actors, different players, and to talk about the modalities, maybe via online conferences like today. And this is dedicated to have a synchronized sharing of this knowledge. And most important thing is to share the concept in a broad scale, especially within the learning cities in Africa. And in doing this, we'll follow a comparative approach. As a conclusion, I would say that the American initiative to create an African Institute for the lifelong learning and the partnership on the level of the African continent can contribute in a very cohesive way with the work of the UIL and with the aims of a learning society and of learning individuals. It involves the neighborhoods, the regions, and all the country. And this will confirm that learning is a human right. And in this spirit and on this base, we will, in a short term, create this institute, African Institute for the Lifelong Learning, and we have operative exchanges with the different African countries and will hold all over the world. And also with the UIL. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as a conclusion, I would express the wish that I hope that this initiative will enhance and optimize the partnership among the African countries and Africa with the rest of the world. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'm very proud and honored to take part of this approach in this work. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alua. I was just informed by my colleague today who was representing Minister Bamusa, is the Secretary General of National Commission of the Kingdom of Morocco. Thank you so much, Mr. Alua, for sharing us the messages from the Minister. We are very delighted to hear that you have built up this very comprehensive vision and very concrete ideas on establishing this African Institute for Lifelong Learning. Please kindly keep us updated in the process. It will be UIL's pleasure to engage and to support in this very important initiative. Thank you once more. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we will hear shortly from today's second speaker, Mr. Jia Wei, the president of Shanghai Open University. In light of a shared mission and a commitment to promote lifelong learning, ISOU and the UIL have formulated a very strong partnership since the year of 2020. Following the implementation of a strategic cooperation agreement that has led to 3 projects and a number of fruitful results over the last 3 years. On the basis of this fruitful cooperation, UIL and ISOU are envisioning a new collaborative initiative in which we will establish an ISOU-UIL campus over the next 3 years, from 2023 to 2025. Let's now welcome President Jia to the stage to share his perspective on the value of partnerships in this context. Dear President, the floor is yours. 贾校长，请您开始演讲。
尊敬的 David Adrena 所长，各位专家，各位来宾，女士们、先生们，大家下午好。
Director David Adrena, dear experts and specialists, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good evening. I'm speaking from the city of Shanghai. Today, I'm very honored to be invited to UIL 70th anniversary celebration and symposium to witness this milestone moment in person. I'm highly honored. On behalf of Shanghai Open University, I would like to extend my most heartfelt congratulations to Director Archerena and all colleagues. Looking back, UIL has been a leader in terms of promote lifelong learning in a global basis. And it is very impressive. Since last century, 70, UNESCO has released a very important report, Learn to Lead the World of Education Today and Tomorrow, to the report released in 90, Learn the Treasure Within, to the recently released report, Reimagining Our Futures Together, a new social contract for education. Among all these reports, lifelong learning is promoted by UIL, and UIL has been working hard to the implementation of lifelong learning on a global basis. And Shanghai Open University has a mission, a theme for all learners and all for learners. And the SOU is playing a very important role in building Shanghai into a learning city. After 62 years of practice and exploration, SOU has become a platform-oriented university, and we have built a public service system which is three-dimensional, which is all compassing lifelong learning system. The university is working with international organizations and with other cities from other countries. We have been working together. We have been learning from each other, exchanging our experiences, and aiming to provide access to lifelong education in an inclusive, equal, and high-quality way. I'm delighted to see that UIL and SOU has become close partners. At the end of 2019, China National Commission for UNESCO, Shanghai Municipal Education Commission, with their support, SOU and UIL has signed a collaboration agreement, and that was the beginning of the 3-year partnership. Around these 3 years, we have done a lot of work in spite of the global pandemic. We conducted a global survey on the contribution of higher education institutions to lifelong learning. A survey report and policy brief were jointly released, and a seminar on capacity building of education systems from the perspective of lifelong learning for UN member countries was continuously conducted. Serving educational decision makers and outstanding researchers in various countries. I would like to give my special thanks to Mr. Raul Cotera and Ms. Winnie Wang. It is your dedication and your expertise helped us going through the first phase of collaboration. Like it is said in the report, Imagining Our Future Together, it says ensuring citizens lifelong quality education is the common social cause and the common interest of all mankind. On the basis of this new social contract, it means the systematic and structural construction, participation, and the support from whole society. We will give full play to the creativity and innovation of higher education institutions, from supporting research and promoting scientific progress to serving local communities and even global education institutions as partners, and to make the contributions to fulfill social contracts. So therefore, Shanghai Open University and UIL decided to extend our first phase project office to upgraded international campus to build the first capacity building the research campus. And from year 2023 to 25, we are going to focus on two things, which are capacity building and the special researchers. The purposes are to provide talent training for education decision makers from various nations, from learning city managers to lifelong learning institutions. Secondary, we are focusing on Asian society issues to provide special learning assistance to meet the senior people's employment, generational learning, and international and IT support for Asian people. 10 years ago, Shanghai Open University was launched, which used to be Shanghai TV University. And after 10 years working under the new name, we have become a global partnership for UIL, and this is innovative, leading global collaboration platform, and which has played a global role in terms of knowledge building and practice sharing. And it has become an open and collaborative network that promotes our shared values of peace, development, equality, justice, democracy, and the freedom for all mankind, and the lifelong learning community of a shared future for mankind. We would like to work with UIL to build the new social contract for education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jia. Thank you very much for sharing the very important work of ISOU in the field of lifelong learning, and also sharing with us your prospect on our cooperation. And so, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, right now I'm very excited to share with you. Today we will formally open a new chapter together. Together we will witness UIL and ISOU mark the next step of their ongoing collaboration by signing this new cooperation agreement that will be in place for the next 3 years to establish an ISOU-UIL campus for international capacity development and research in lifelong learning. With that aside, let us formally begin today's cooperation agreement signing ceremony. I kindly invite Mr. Jia Wei to sign the new agreement on behalf of ISOU. Equally, I kindly invite Mr. David Archerina to sign on behalf of UIL. The floor is yours.
今天几号啊？10月1号。试一下。这个展示，但是签名还是展示？给我一个人。
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the agreement is now signed. As we are witnessing this remarkable moment, may I invite you to switch on your audio? Please join me to give a big round of applause to SOU and to UIL. Congratulations. Okay, right now, I would like
Du bist nicht Panelist, deshalb.
Is everything all right? Okay. Okay, right now I would like to welcome UIL's director, Mr. David Archuleta, to share his perspective on UIL-SOU cooperation and the importance of partnerships to UIL in general. David, please take the floor.
Thank you, Mo, and dear participants. First of all, I would like to stress the importance of partnerships for conducting our work. I mean, we've heard, throughout the day during this symposium, the complexity of lifelong learning in its different dimensions. We also saw that the mandate needs to be actually implemented through the involvement of many stakeholders. So partnership is really a very important principle in the way we work. I would say it's a mechanism to implement our new strategy, but it's also an aim in itself. So through partnership, we also facilitate and promote policy dialogue, policy sharing, and a better understanding across the world about the importance of lifelong learning and the ways in which it can be best implemented. So I'm very happy that we just heard the initiative from the Kingdom of Morocco with the launch of this new Institute for Lifelong Learning in Africa, and we are grateful to Morocco for taking this initiative. And I'm very glad that we are taking the opportunity of this celebration also to sign this very important agreement for us between UIL and Shanghai Open University. So I would like to thank Mr. Jia Wei, the president of Shanghai Open University, Mrs. Zhang, the vice president, for their support, their commitment, not only to this partnership, but to the cause of lifelong learning, I would say more broadly. President Wei, as you mentioned, the engagement of SOU in this project, in this partnership, is also, I would say, a part and of a broader also engagement of Shanghai as a learning city. Shanghai is a member of a global network of learning cities, and as such, it does participate actively in many of the initiatives conducted within that framework, and notably in the field of climate change, climate action, and education for sustainable development, in particular in collaboration with the city of Hamburg. So we are very pleased to actually reinforce this strong partnership through SOU with the city of Shanghai. This new agreement that we just signed is one step further in a cooperation that was already very successful with the first agreement that we signed 2 years ago, and which contributed really to have a better understanding on one of the important challenges that was discussed today, and I refer to the contribution of higher education institutions and in particular universities to lifelong learning. And we heard, for instance, earlier on today in the case of Korea, that this is indeed a very important topic which is high on the agenda. So thanks to this partnership, I think we have been able to produce insightful findings on this topic. We had the first presentation of those findings during the World Conference on Higher Education that took place a few months ago in May in Barcelona. So that was, I think, a very important also platform to share the first outcomes of this cooperation program. But Mr. Wei, Mrs. Zhang, as you indicated, we also, contributed and developed materials for capacity building, and together we actually worked with a number of countries to provide support and guidance for the development of lifelong learning policies and the preparation for their effective implementation in several countries, notably in Africa and Asia. So we are grateful for this partnership, and now we are very much, I would say, looking forward and quite excited by this new chapter in our cooperation with this new agreement that I would say constitutes not only an extension of the previous framework, but also an upgrading, because now we are together establishing this campus, which is say, a joint really effort to reinforce not only research, but also knowledge sharing and capacity building, using at as much as possible the potential of technology to disseminate those resources and to build capacities. So thanks a lot for your commitment to this partnership, but beyond that, for your commitment to the cause of lifelong learning. SOU has contributed to this, of course, in China and in Shanghai, and through this partnership together, we are now extending this expertise and experience throughout the world. So thanks again, and we are very much looking forward to this new era, this new moment in our cooperation.
Thank you, David, for your speech. It's clear that the collaboration between UIL and SOU has promoted lifelong learning in a myriad of ways over the recent years, and in turn has generated a positive impact on a global scale. Equally, opportunities for future collaboration with SOU and with all other partners promise to have a lasting impact in the field of lifelong learning. Thank you for all. Then last but not least, I would like to kindly invite President Jia and Vice President Zhang to unveil the SOU UIL campus flag created to inaugurate the next stage of cooperation between UIL and SOU. Mr. Jia and Ms. Zhang, please take the floor.
Okay. Take it.
Thank you very much, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. May I invite you to join me to give another big round of applause to UIL and SOU. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Jia and Ms. Zhang, once more. Thank you very much for participating in today's ceremony. We know it's already very late in China. Thank you so much. So colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, now we can finally now give the floor to the third speaker of today's session, to my colleague, Ms. Christina Zhu. As mentioned, Christina is a program specialist at UIL, and she's going to share with us on some reflections on the Global Network of Learning Cities project. And also she will introduce us the possibility it offers for future engagement and partnership. Christina, please take the floor.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished representatives, bonjour, good afternoon, good evening. I have the honor and the challenge to share with you the last UIL presentation, and I will speak about our collaborative work, our networking and partnerships. You may know that each year the UN Habitat releases the World City Report. And in this year's recent publication, we are witnessing a world that will continue to urbanize over the next 3 decades. Currently from 56% to 68% in 2050, meaning almost 70% of the world's population living in urban settings. This translates into an increase of 2.2 billion urban residents living mostly in Africa and the Asian region. All regions of the world are expected to become more urbanized. Unequivocally, this tells us that cities are here to stay and that the future of humanity is undoubtedly urban, but not entirely in large metropolitan areas. We also know that the future of cities is not uniform across the regions and can lead to a range of scenarios. In more developed economies, key priorities for the future of cities include managing cultural diversity, modernizing aging infrastructure, meeting the needs of an increasingly aging population. In less developed economies, urban priorities for the future are rising levels of poverty, providing adequate infrastructure, affordable housing, addressing high levels of youth unemployment. How these challenges are addressed will lead to a range of future scenarios. Building economic, social, and environmental resilience, including appropriate governance and institutional structures, must be at the heart of the future of cities. It is the space where we connect the dots for implementing lifelong learning, contributing to global change. We always say that our cities are acting local to go global. Against this backdrop of rapid urbanization and diversification of formal and non-formal learning environments, our institute established the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities, the GNLC, in 2012-2013. Since then, the network has been growing and expanding continuously. Today, we have almost 300 cities from 76 countries. This year, we have 60 new cities from Africa and 15 new member states from all regions that were integrated to the network. At UIL, we are producing instruments to help cities to design lifelong learning strategies within their specific context. Another sign of consolidation is the emergence of new regional networks. We have this case in the Latin American and Caribbean region and also in the Asian Pacific region. We are also observing the creation of national networks. This is the case for Italy, for Mexico, Ireland, Argentina. Next slide, yes. In response to the demand from member cities, the network has been consolidated through the work of thematic clusters. The clusters are focusing on education for sustainable development, learning for health and well-being, educational planning, inclusion, all topics of high relevance to our member cities. Each cluster is led by some coordinating cities and further supported by technical partners. The clusters facilitated exchange of knowledge, exchange of resources and good practices on these specific topics, and they foster mutual support among the participating cities. Within the context of these clusters, the GNLC has developed a set of publications, case studies, roadmaps, and this material is of course available for you too. By organizing the network's work around these specific issues, the network has strengthened the relationship with international experts, with other UN entities, with other city networks, with UNESCO chairs, for instance, who have been working in close consultation with our cities and UIL. So more and more bilateral and multilateral cooperation among cities has been produced. The Learning Cities responses to the COVID-19 pandemic illustrated how such partnership strategies are articulated around these sectoral priorities in health, environment, employment, social protection. And they will continue to play a key role in building resilience. I'm going to share with you a concrete example of joint work very briefly. Last year, for instance, at the 5th International Conference on Learning Cities, the cities from around the world pledged to place lifelong learning for health and the development of resilience at the center of their agendas. An international declaration was adopted, and UIL and the UNESCO Chair for Global Health and Education have collaborated to develop a roadmap guide for enacting this Yonsu Declaration. So member cities and all the participants of that conference have been invited to co-create over the course of the last year a roadmap which guides the cities in promoting lifelong learning for health and implementing policy to build a health learning pathway for all. For the coming years, the GNLC will make an even greater impact. First, already mentioned by my colleague today, there is an urgency to raise awareness on the impact of climate change. The importance for local and regional governments to adopt necessary measures to prepare their territories to become resilient to environmental change is key. Cities have vast resources and they are well equipped to tackle climate change. By developing knowledge and skills needed for this green transition, the learning cities can shape their wider regions and lead to global change. UIL will further enhance the engagement with cities and other partners on the local, on the national and international level to guide the members. Second, we will further document how learning cities are able to build learning ecosystems, where the community becomes the learning institution, connecting a range of different partners, libraries, museums, community radio, as well, of course, formal education and training institutions. The development of learning cities as inclusive learning ecosystems provides a path towards a new humanism, reconciling employment, inclusion, health and well-being, and environmental protection. Third, UIL further promotes and seeks partnerships within cities and involving universities. In many of our members around the world, universities embed the Learning City initiative. Universities contribute to citywide learning partnerships involving regular meetings with all the key stakeholders to build a Learning City plan, the program, and ensuring that learning is inclusive of all through engagement with the wide range of stakeholders. By using research to align learning with the need of the local people. Fourth, UIL will enlarge the scope of its Learning Cities agenda for research, advocacy, international exchanges, capacity development, and technical advice. This is to embrace the notion of learning territories. Such expansion will better address the needs of our member states in relation to rural areas, notably in the African region and in cities from underrepresented member states. We'll identify the features and principles of learning cities that can be applied to rural settings and adapted to inspire rural learning initiatives. We will document and share good practice in co-creating platforms and mechanisms for mutual learning. Number 5, UIL will offer tailor-made capacity building. It should suit the needs and requests of our members, adaptable to widely differing local contexts. For this, we will use the UIL Learning Hub and offer peer learning through courses, specialized modules, or other learning opportunities. In addition, UIL will work on a project to empower African and Asian cities to be key players in implementing lifelong learning. The project will support selected cities to develop into learning cities, drawing on the experiences worldwide, and it will run until 2025. Over this 3-year period, activities for capacity building, policy dialogue, and exchange of best practice will be organized around the key action points of developing into a learning city in a manner that is inclusive of different learning spaces. So we're talking about regions, counties, towns, villages. Coming to my last slide, as part of UIL's medium-term strategy, We will promote new partnerships between cities for interaction and exchange, fostering increased cooperation between cities from the same region, and looking into the feasibility of interregional cooperation by twinning learning cities. There is a clear need and objective to increase collaboration with private companies and urban planners, especially when it comes to digitalization and the topics already mentioned: health, climate change, citizenship, education. And this is for strengthening the phenomenon of acting local to go global, recognizing how local governments have attained on the international stage today. They open the space of possibilities, as it was quoted in one of the panels today. The success of cities, towns, and urban areas will largely depend on policies and strategies that protect and sustain all, leaving no one behind. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Christina. Thank you for sharing this variety of initiatives we are envisioning, we are planning to be implemented on the platform of Global Network of Learning Cities. This project keeps informed all partners and all city members and also all interested colleagues through social media channels and through newsletters, for example. So we really look forward to having your partnership, to having your engagement in these many initiatives, many projects we are planning to implement in the following years. Okay, so with all the panelists finished their presentation, let me check whether there's a question from our participants. Okay, there is a question actually to SOU. May I ask President Jia and Vice President Zhang to answer this question? This question is media information literacy as integrated part of skills and competencies required in designing lifelong learning in Shanghai Open University? Are you able to get this question clearly? Should I repeat one more time? Can you give us a signal? Would you please? Okay, it's media information literacy. Media information literacy as integrated part of skills and competencies required in designing lifelong learning in Shanghai Open University.
我觉得媒体信息素养啊，对于当代的每个公民来讲，都
Media
是
information literacy to modern citizens is a required literacy, and for higher education practitioners, it is one of our focuses. For Shanghai Open University, 70% of the students are from regions other than Shanghai, and they are mostly workers from manufacturing sector and service sector. So they have to balance their life and their learning. So through building an information network, a platform, we provide distance education. This requires multiple approaches. First, we have to build a lifelong diploma learning to provide them with the formal education and the learning resources. Through this kind of program, we would like our students to learn the classroom teaching content, and we would like them to be engaged in the exchanges in classroom, and they can listen to the delivery of the teaching, and they should be involved in the learning activity. And also we ask teachers to closely watch the progress of the students. So for the 80,000 of diploma learners in our Open University, it is a very important approach. And also we provide a work learning platform for all citizens. In our platform, a lot of senior citizens are very interested in the knowledge and the skills we provide, and they use this to improve their life quality. For example, they use our platform to improve their photographer skills, to learn how to dance and sing, to improve their cooking skills, to make their life richer and more modern. And thirdly, we are trying to monitor the learning needs on our MIL platform. We would like to actively understand the students' learning needs, so respond to their needs and provide new content and the right teachers. And also we have learning AI, learning robots to answer general questions in the learning process. And this is one of our important projects too. And also we have an initiative called Credit Bank. The students can deposit their credit to this bank, and when they move to other platforms, the credit can go to the same bank. This can help to inspire, to motivate the learners, and to help them get recognition from a broader community, and they can use their credit bank to find a job. So the purpose is to make them continue their lifelong learning in the
Thank
years
you so much,
forward.
President Jiang. Thank you for this very elaborative answer. So before we close this session, I would like to give the floor one more time to our panelists. So each one would have 30 seconds to give a concluding remark. May I invite Secretary General Mr. Alua to start?
Votre micro est coupé, monsieur.
You are mute. Wow. I hear not.
But we can hear you right now.
So we have a technical issue.
Yes, we can hear you right now, Mr. Alua.
C'est bon?
That's okay?
Yes.
It works?
C'est bon.
Okay, it works. I would like to thank you to have given me the opportunity to talk in the frame of this panel, and I'd like to say that as Morocco has committed itself to implement this institute, which is very important. This is a royal guidance and a royal initiative, which is accepted in the frame of the Plan d'Action, the action plan of Maroc, which was implemented this year. We really need an expertise from the UN, from the United Nations, sorry, to accompany us in the frame of this initiative, because this has a regional character, but this will be a guide for the whole African countries, and maybe for all over the world. I don't think that the institute is just an investment in terms of building, but it is an investment in terms of methods and implementation of methods and new approaches, very innovative approaches. And these initiatives and approaches are dedicated to enhance specialism numerization for the training programs. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alua. Now, let me give the floor to SOU.
Well, many thanks that I got 3 opportunities to speak. First of all, on behalf of SOU, I'd like to thank UNESCO, Institute of Lifelong Learning, and also through the platform of cooperation, I'd like to also share our best practices with others. And also through the platform, I also would like to learn from other partners. So in a nutshell, through this implementation of the cooperation, I hope that more universities will go abroad so we can better understand each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jia. And finally, to my colleague, Christina.
Thank you, Mo. What can I say? I think the essence of the Learning Cities Network is per se doing networking, finding partners, standing in solidarity for the topic of lifelong learning. And I think we have here a very real, tangible example. We are around the table sitting with our different partners with whom we increase our collaboration. And that's really the beauty of the network, be it with the city of Shanghai and different cities in the African region and all around the world. So I'm looking forward to this enhanced cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I would like to thank once more each of our speakers and participants for sharing your valuable remarks and insights during this panel session and for celebrating with us today. Now, I would like to hand over to UIL's director, Mr. David Acho-Arena, for the closing event of today's celebrations. Many thanks.
Thank you, Mo. And first of all, I would like to start by thanking again all the speakers and the panelists, all the participants, and thanks for your questions, which facilitated to actually go deeper in the exploration of some of the issues that were discussed. I think that it was really a very insightful and rich discussion, and the presentations, I think, will help us even to further refine the way we're going to design and conduct our activities. Maybe the first remark, at the end of this symposium, I think that maybe the first point to stress is the relevance of the mandate of the institute, which maybe remains as relevant as it was 70 years ago. It may be even more relevant. And I think that what transpires from the discussions, it's also the centrality of lifelong learning to respond and to address many of the contemporary challenges that we see today in the world, not only in the field of education, but in for the really agenda for sustainability in globally in general. So I think that's something that came out very strongly. I would say is so reassuring in a way for us at UIL when it comes to really the contribution that we can continue to make. And the way we're going to continue partnering with member states. Maybe the second point, which I think came out very strongly throughout the discussion, is that there is no life without learning. I mean, learning is an intrinsic part of life, which is something that was already mentioned yesterday in the first event that we organized, and it came out again today very strongly. And here I would like to quote, for instance, Mrs. Ampati-Ba, who reminded us that well, school gives a diploma, but life is learning. L'école donne des diplômes, c'est la vie qui forme. I think that's a strong really formula, which I think summarizes very well, you know, this principle and this vision of lifelong learning as essential to life. And in the discussion, we also actually understood and that informal learning is maybe increasingly important and as important as formal education. And when we talk about informal learning, we also talk about learning as a collective process in the community, at home, and also at work. I think that we had different illustrations of those processes, those mechanisms through the presentations made by different speakers today, which reminded us that learning is really learning together, learning from the others, learning also with others, and I think that's also a very important principle for lifelong learning and for you know, the future of our work here at UIL. There was also a strong, I think, a call for really recognizing the diversity of learning places. Again, beyond the formal system, beyond schools, universities, vocational schools and training centers, but to really conceptualize the concept of lifelong learning, the reality and the processes of learning through this notion of learning ecosystems, which fundamentally do relate to this notion, this landscape of a diversity of learning places, and which calls also for mechanism to recognize learning achievements regardless of the way in which they were acquired. And I think this is very important. That's something that came out also very strongly from the discussion, and which relates very much to the work that the Institute has been doing and will continue to do, as you saw in the presentations, in the field of recognition, validation, and accreditation. When it comes to the main areas of I mean, programmatic areas, we heard a very strong, I think, presentation and discussion on climate action and the importance of lifelong learning for climate action and sustainable development in general. And here I would like maybe to maybe quote one, you know, statement made by Mr. Alvarez, I think, which maybe summarizes a very important, you know, perspective and principle, is that we should not really see people as problems, but people are the solution. And people should be the actors of the transformation which is needed in education, but more generally in society, and not seen as only targets of public policy. So I think that's a very strong statement. It's a statement that relates, in fact, also to you know, a broader perspective which was already formulated in a way in the field of adult education. So we see that this remains even much more important today in the context of climate action. We heard also a very important and interesting perspectives on demography, and maybe I would just like to stress one point that was made by Professor Jan Goldin, and which I think stressed very well the principle and the reality of interdependence. The fact that really, you know, we are all, in fact, related to each other, and that humanity also is related to, more broadly, to the planet. So humanity is diverse, but at the same time, humanity is one. And I think that this is something that, again, should be a very important principle and a very important value to guide, you know, our action in the field of lifelong learning, and certainly that will also inspire in the future the work of the Institute. Again, to quote Professor Jan Goldin, I mean, we are all migrants. I mean, this is something that we should not forget, and I hope that this is something, a statement that will also be given, I think, adequate consideration throughout the world. This relates also very much to the notion of citizenship, which is one which is really evolving. We heard Mrs. Fröhler about you know, the link between citizenship and the SDGs, and how also citizenship is central to the Sustainable Development Agenda in its entirety. And here I would like to refer to the so-called Delors report. I mean, we heard about the FOR report, we heard about the report of the Commission on the futures of education, but I think it's important also to remind us that you know, learning to live together, which was one of the 4 pillars of education in the Delors report, remains, you know, as important as ever, and this maybe leads us to reflect on what I would call an extended ethics of care. I mean, caring for oneself, caring for the others, and caring for the planet. And lifelong learning is very much about this, you know, extended ethics of care. The 4th industrial revolution was also part of our discussion. I think that Professor Braun gave us a very insightful and maybe, you know, I would say new perspectives on the future of work and on the impact and implications of the transformation of the labor market on lifelong learning. Not enough decent quality jobs. I mean, that's you know, also a reality of the emerging labor markets, and the importance of developing people's talent. So the discourse on upskilling and reskilling is not sufficient. You know, it's important also to nurture people's talent and to develop this capacity, but sometimes was called, I mean, learning to become, which is a very important also perspective. And here I'd like to quote the chair of UIL governing board, and to a large extent also UIL's work, maybe, you know, to teach humanity about humanity. So that's also a very important and complex perspective. So I think that both exchanges kind of reaffirm the centrality of lifelong learning, but also the relevance of our new strategy framework and the 4 areas of priority: climate change, demography, citizenship, the transformation of the labor market are certainly key elements to reflect today on the future of lifelong learning. The mandate is broad, the challenges are huge, and this is precisely why we count on partnerships to actually deliver, our programs, but also contribute to designing maybe new ways of working together. So we heard today 3 different models of the way in which UIL promotes a partnership with this, alliance with the upcoming Institute for Lifelong Learning in Africa, launched by Morocco, with the support of UIL, the importance of Africa in our mandate. This is something which is, I think, reflected in this partnership. Another dimension is also the importance of open education and of technology, and this is what we are promoting through this SOU UIL campus in Shanghai, and that you've just heard about. And finally, the global network of learning cities is about also partnerships, but it's also a recognition of the fundamental belief that for lifelong learning to become a reality, implementation also needs to take place at local level, and requires also to support bottom-up initiatives. And this is precisely what we are actually documenting, but also supporting through this network of learning cities and through this territorial approach that we are going to further explore as a new dimension, maybe for guiding public policies in the field of lifelong learning. Voilà, je vais maintenant, pour terminer, passer au français. Je voudrais peut-être, en guise de conclusion, insister sur une dimension qui a été évoquée par plusieurs intervenants. Madame Giannini a rappelé l'importance de ce nouveau contrat social en éducation qui est mentionné dans le rapport de la Commission internationale sur les futurs de l'éducation. Sir Alan Tuckett nous a aussi rappelé l'importance du rôle important de la société civile pour faire en sorte que les politiques ne conduisent pas finalement à l'exclusion de certains publics fragiles. Donc c'est cette dimension de l'inclusion, de l'équité qui est au cœur du programme des Nations Unies pour le développement durable reste une préoccupation, il doit rester une préoccupation centrale pour l'UIL, pour nos programmes, et nous l'espérons également pour les États membres. Le risque de polarisation finalement des programmes au bénéfice de ceux qui sont déjà les plus qualifiés, les mieux formés. Le risque de voir se poursuivre finalement les aggravations des inégalités et l'exclusion sous toutes ses formes. Ce sont finalement, c'est une réponse à laquelle doit également contribuer l'éducation et l'apprentissage tout au long de la vie. Je crois, souvenons-nous que finalement la solidité du tissu social exige que l'on prenne en compte la vulnérabilité des plus faibles. Et c'est peut-être sur ce message que je voudrais terminer, ce message et ce principe qui va guider également l'action de l'Institut, nos programmes. Je voudrais, pour terminer, remercier à nouveau l'ensemble des intervenants qui se
all
sont
speakers
exprimés
who have
aujourd'hui.
come here and
Je voudrais,
expressed their views.
je voudrais également remercier bien
I would
sûr
also like
tous les participants
to thank all participants that are with us, no matter where you are. And also, to finish, I would like to thank all the partner organizations and those who are maybe not yet partners, but with whom we will be able to develop activities. And I would also like to thank the members of the governing board and all of our colleagues in the Institute who have participated in putting together this symposium. Now, I would like to ask you to save the date, not in 70 years' time, sorry, but very soon, so that together we can work to promote lifelong learning and make sure that together we will use this tool, this instrument, in order to create a fairer, more inclusive and sustainable society. Thank you very much and see you again very soon.